Have an old Canadian quarter. Don't spend it just yet. One rare Elizabeth II 25-cent coin could be hiding in your collection, and collectors are paying far more than face value for it. Watch closely, hit like, subscribe, and see if you found the one everyone's searching for. In 1968, Canada stood at the edge of a major change in its coinage. For years, Canadian quarters had been made with silver, but rising metal prices pushed the Royal Canadian Mint toward a new nickel composition. That transition created one of the most interesting situations in modern Canadian coins. Two 1968 quarters can look nearly identical, yet one may contain silver while the other is nickel. The first coin in this video is the 1968 Canadian 25-cent coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II. At first glance, it looks like a familiar Canadian quarter, a silver-colored piece with a young portrait of the Queen on one side and a caribou on the other. But the year 1968 is special because it was a transition year, and the metal inside the coin matters far more than most people realize. On the obverse, Queen Elizabeth II faces right, surrounded by the inscription, Elizabeth II d.G. Regina. This traditional Latin phrase means, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. The portrait was created by Arnold Machin and became one of the most recognizable royal images on Canadian coins during the late 1960s and early 1970s. The reverse shows a caribou standing proudly in the center of the coin. Above it is the denomination, 25 cents, while the word Canada appears below. The date 1968 is placed to the right of the caribou. This reverse design was created by Emmanuel Otto Hahn and had been used on Canadian quarters since 1937. The caribou became a national symbol of the country's wilderness, strength, and northern identity. Most 1968 Canadian quarters are not worth thousands of dollars. Many were used in everyday commerce, passed through cash registers, stored in collections, or kept as silver souvenirs. A heavily worn piece with scratches, dark spots, or cleaning damage normally has limited numismatic value. But certain coins can become far more valuable because of their composition, their condition, or a genuine mint error. The first thing to understand is that 1968 Canadian quarters were made in two different compositions. Some were struck in 50% silver and 50% copper, while others were struck in pure nickel. They look similar at first, but one simple test can separate them: magnetism. A nickel 1968 quarter is magnetic. A silver 1968 quarter is not magnetic. This is one of the most important details a collector can learn. If you place a small magnet near the coin and it is attracted, the coin is the nickel version. If it does not react to the magnet, it may be the silver version. However, the magnet test is only the beginning. Do not use an extremely powerful magnet, and do not scrape the coin while testing it. The goal is simply to see whether the coin reacts naturally. A careful magnet test, combined with weight, diameter, edge inspection, and professional authentication, can help confirm whether the coin is silver or nickel. The silver version is important because it contains precious metal. But silver content alone does not mean the coin is worth tens of thousands of dollars. A common silver 1968 quarter in circulated condition may carry a modest premium because of its silver value and collector demand. The much larger range of $42,150 to $122,560 would only apply to an extraordinary coin with a major certified error, exceptional condition, or a highly unusual minting anomaly. A precise digital scale can also be useful. A normal 1968 Canadian quarter should have the correct standard size and weight for its type. If a coin seems too heavy, too light, unusually thick, or unusually small, it could be a sign of a wrong planchet or another production error. But never assume that an odd weight automatically means a rare treasure. Dirt, corrosion, wear, plating, or post-mint damage can affect the appearance of a coin. One of the most dramatic errors to look for is an off-center strike. This happens when the blank metal disc is not properly positioned between the dies. The Queen's portrait, the caribou, the date, or the lettering may appear shifted toward one side, leaving part of the coin blank. The best off-center errors usually preserve part of the date because that makes the coin easier to identify. A strong off-center 1968 quarter with 1968 still visible can be much more desirable than a small misalignment. The more obvious the error, the more dramatic the story becomes. But the design must show that the mistake happened during the strike, not after the coin was bent, clipped, or damaged in circulation. Another rare possibility is a broad strike. This happens when the collar that controls the coin's diameter does not function correctly during striking. The metal spreads outward, making the coin wider than normal. A genuine broad strike often has a smooth, expanded edge and an even shape. It should not look like it was flattened with tools or crushed after leaving the mint. Double strikes can also be exciting. In this error, the coin receives a second impression after moving inside the press. The result may show a second partial image of Queen Elizabeth II, repeated letters, doubled parts of the caribou, or overlapping details in the date. A real double strike follows the original coin design and creates a coherent second image. Random scratches or flat shadows are not the same thing. You should also inspect the coin for die cracks and cuds. A die crack appears as a raised line because metal flows into a crack in the die during striking. A cud is a larger raised area, usually close to the rim, caused by a broken piece of the die. The basic rule is easy: mint-made die errors rise above the surface, while scratches and damage are cut into the metal. Condition is equally important. A silver or nickel quarter with strong original luster, sharp details on the queen's hair, and a clearly defined caribou can be much more desirable than a worn example. Collectors look for coins with untouched surfaces, not coins that have been polished or chemically cleaned. Never clean a 1968 Canadian quarter that looks unusual. Cleaning can remove original luster, leave fine scratches, and reduce collector value. Store it in a protective holder, test it carefully with a magnet, photograph both sides, and compare it with another 1968 quarter. Because this one date represents the moment Canada moved from silver toward nickel. And a small caribou quarter from that transition year may hold far more than 25 cents of history. A 2000 Canadian quarter may look like ordinary pocket change, but an unusual reverse, a missing detail, or the wrong metal can turn this Queen Elizabeth II coin into something collectors study twice. The second coin in this video is the 2000 Canadian 25-cent coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II. The year 2000 was not an ordinary year for Canadian quarters. Canada celebrated the beginning of a new millennium, and the Royal Canadian Mint issued several special quarter designs that quickly became popular with the public. That means a 2000 Canadian quarter can be much more interesting than a standard coin, especially when it shows a genuine mint error, an unusual strike, or exceptional preservation. On the obverse, Queen Elizabeth II faces right. Around her portrait appears the inscription, Elizabeth II d.G. Regina, meaning, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This portrait, created by Dora de Petrie Hunt, was used on Canadian circulation coins during that period and remains instantly recognizable to collectors. The reverse is where the story becomes more exciting. In the year 2000, Canadian quarters included both the familiar caribou reverse and special millennium designs. These commemorative coins featured different themes connected to Canadian life, history, culture, technology, and national identity. Because several designs were issued, many people saved them in collections, while others spent them without realizing that the year had become part of a special program. That does not mean every 2000 Canadian quarter is rare or worth thousands of dollars. Most are common circulation coins. A worn example with scratches, discoloration, cleaning marks, or heavy damage will usually have limited collector value. The large value range of $30,150 to $98,300 would apply only to a truly exceptional piece, a major certified mint error, a wrong planchet strike, a dramatic double strike, a powerful off-center error, or an extraordinarily preserved coin with a recognized variety. The standard 2000 Canadian quarter was made from a copper-nickel alloy. Its normal weight is approximately 5.05 grams, its diameter is about 23.88 millimeters, and its edge is reeded. These details matter because collectors use them to compare a suspected error coin with a normal example. If your quarter is noticeably heavier, lighter, thicker, smaller, or wider than expected, it deserves closer attention. A precise digital scale is one of the best tools for beginning an inspection. A normal 2000 Canadian quarter should weigh close to 5.05 grams. A coin that is far outside that range could possibly have been struck on the wrong blank, but you must be careful. Dirt, corrosion, glue, post-mint damage, or altered surfaces can make a coin appear unusual without making it a genuine mint error. The next area to inspect is the edge. A normal Canadian quarter should have clear reading around the entire rim. If the reading is weak, missing, uneven, or replaced by a smooth expanded edge, the coin may have been struck without the collar functioning correctly. This type of error is known as a broad strike. During normal production, the collar holds the blank metal disc in place and controls its diameter while the dies strike the design. If the collar fails, the metal spreads outward. The result can be a coin that is wider than normal with a smoother, broader edge. A true broad strike should look even and natural all the way around. It should not look crushed with tools or flattened after circulation. Another important error is an off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet is not properly centered between the dies. The Queen's portrait, the date 2000, the caribou, or one of the Millennium reverse designs may shift toward one side. Part of the coin can remain blank because it never received the full design. The most desirable off-center errors usually keep part of the date visible. If 2000 remains readable, collectors can identify the issue immediately. A minor shift may be interesting, but a strong off-center strike with the date still present can be far more dramatic and desirable. Double strikes can also create remarkable coins. This error happens when a coin receives a second impression after it moves inside the press. The result can show two partial portraits of Queen Elizabeth II, repeated lettering, doubled rim details, or two overlapping images on the reverse. If the coin has a Millennium design, a double strike may create especially unusual results because the special artwork can appear partially repeated. A genuine double strike should show a coherent second impression connected to the original design. It should not look like random scratches, flat shadows, or damage caused after the coin entered circulation. Real double strikes have depth and structure because they were created by the dies themselves. You should also inspect the lettering around Queen Elizabeth II. Look carefully at Elizabeth II, D.G. Regina, and the date. In some cases, die varieties or double die features can create raised doubling in letters or numbers. Genuine double die doubling is sharp, raised, and repeatable. It does not look like blurry machine doubling or wear. The reverse needs equal attention. Whether your quarter has the standard caribou or a Millennium design, inspect every letter, image, and border detail. Look for raised die cracks, metal chips, missing details, or strange lines that were formed during striking. A die crack appears as a raised line because metal flows into a fracture in the die. A cut is a larger raised blob, usually near the rim, caused by a broken piece of the die. The easiest rule to remember is this: a mint-made die error rises above the coin's surface. A scratch, gouge, or contact mark usually cuts into the metal. This simple difference can help you avoid confusing ordinary damage with a real mint-made variety. A wrong planchet error would be one of the rarest possibilities. This occurs when a quarter design is struck on a blank intended for another denomination. Such a piece may have a different weight, color, thickness, or diameter. The design can look compressed, incomplete, or unusually close to the rim. Because altered coins can imitate these features, professional authentication is essential. Condition can make an enormous difference. A common 2000 quarter in heavy circulation may have little value, but an uncirculated example with original luster, sharp Queen Elizabeth II details, crisp reading, and minimal contact marks can be much more appealing. Collectors value untouched surfaces. Coins that have been polished, cleaned, or chemically altered often lose much of their numismatic appeal. Never clean a quarter that looks different. Cleaning can remove original mint luster, create tiny scratches, and reduce its value. Store it in a protective holder, weigh it carefully, inspect the edge, and photograph both sides in good light. Because a 2000 Canadian quarter is more than a coin from a new millennium. It may carry a special design, a rare production mistake, or a hidden mint detail that turns 25 cents into a remarkable piece of history. And now, the next coin may be even more surprising. A 2007 Canadian quarter celebrating Vancouver 2010 may look like a simple Olympic souvenir, but one incorrect date, a magnetic steel blank, or a major striking error can turn it into a coin collectors never forget. The third and final coin in this video is the 2007 Canadian 25-cent Vancouver 2010 coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II. This quarter belongs to the special circulation series created to celebrate the upcoming 2010 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games in Vancouver. Unlike an ordinary caribou quarter, these coins were designed around winter sports, Canadian pride, and one of the largest international sporting events ever hosted in Canada. On the obverse, Queen Elizabeth II faces right. Around her portrait appear the words Canada, Elizabeth II, and the date 2007. The Queen's portrait was designed by Susanna Blunt, and it is different from earlier Canadian portraits because the Queen is shown without a crown. Depending on the specific Olympic or Paralympic reverse, the obverse may also include Olympic or Paralympic wording and symbols connected to the Vancouver 2010 program. The reverse is where the excitement begins. In 2007, Canada issued several Vancouver 2010 circulation quarters showing winter sports such as hockey, curling, biathlon, alpine skiing, and wheelchair curling. Each design carried the Vancouver 2010 wording and presented an athlete in motion. These coins were meant to build excitement years before the games actually began. That makes this series different from a standard Canadian quarter. It is not just a coin with a date. It is part of a major national sports program, and many people saved these coins when they first appeared. But there is an important truth collectors must remember: most 2007 Vancouver 2010 quarters are not worth thousands of dollars. Many were produced for circulation, and a common worn example usually has modest collector value. The value range of $22,340 to $84,500 would only make sense for a truly extraordinary example. That could include a certified date error, a dramatic wrong planchet strike, a major double strike, an off-center error, or a coin with exceptional preservation and a rare production anomaly. It does not apply to every 2007 Olympic quarter found in circulation. The standard 2007 Vancouver 2010 quarter was made from nickel-plated steel. Its composition is approximately 94% steel, with copper and nickel plating on the surface. It weighs around 4.4 grams, has a diameter of 23.88 millimeters, a thickness of about 1.58 millimeters, and a reeded edge. One major clue is magnetism. Because the coin contains steel, a normal example should react to a magnet. This is different from older Canadian quarters made from silver, nickel, or copper nickel. If your 2007 Vancouver 2010 quarter is not attracted to a magnet, do not immediately assume it is rare, but it does deserve closer inspection. A non-magnetic piece could be caused by an unusual composition, a wrong planchet, damage, plating issues, or an altered coin. The magnet test is only the first step. It should be combined with weight, diameter, edge inspection, and professional authentication. Never scratch the coin with a magnet or forcefully drag a magnet across its surface. One of the most interesting known errors connected to this series involves the alpine skiing design. A small number of 2007 dated Vancouver 2010 alpine skiing quarters were reportedly found with a 2008 date on the obverse instead of 2007. This happened because an incorrect obverse die was used during production for a limited group of collector-related products. That type of mistake is extremely important because it creates a coin that should not have existed in that form. If you have an alpine skiing Vancouver 2010 quarter, examine the obverse date carefully. Check whether the reverse belongs to the 2007 sports design while the obverse carries an unexpected 2008 date. A genuine mule or mismatch die error should show normal original surfaces, proper strike characteristics, and no evidence that the date was altered after leaving the mint. This is why magnification matters. Look closely at every number in the date. An altered coin may show scratches, unusual texture, tooling marks, or disturbed metal around the digits. A genuine mint-produced error should have a clean, natural-looking date consistent with the rest of the design. Another important possibility is an off-center strike. This occurs when the steel planchet is not correctly positioned between the dies. The Queen's portrait, the date, the athlete, or the Vancouver 2010 lettering may shift toward one side, leaving a blank area of metal on the opposite side. The strongest off-center errors usually preserve part of the date. If 2007 or a known error date remains visible, the coin becomes easier to identify and more desirable to collectors. A tiny shift may be interesting, but a dramatic strike with clear design displacement can be much more valuable. Double strikes are also worth watching for. A double strike happens when a coin is struck once, moves inside the press, and receives another impression. On an Olympic quarter, this could create repeated athlete outlines, doubled lettering, overlapping logos, or two partial portraits of Queen Elizabeth II. A genuine double strike has depth and structure. It follows the original design and looks like a second controlled impression. It should not be confused with ordinary damage, scratches, or flat shadows caused by machine vibration. You should also inspect the edge. The normal coin should have clear reading. If the coin appears wider than usual, has weak or missing reading, or has an unusually smooth expanded rim, it may be a broad strike. A broad strike happens when the collar that controls the coin's diameter fails during striking. The steel planchet spreads outward, producing a coin that is wider than normal but still carries an authentic mint-made design. Die cracks and cuds can also appear. A die crack shows as a raised line because metal flows into a fracture in the die. A cud is a larger raised lump, usually near the rim, caused by a broken section of the die. Remember the key rule: mint-made die errors rise above the surface, scratches and damage cut into the surface. Condition matters greatly. A circulated 2007 Vancouver 2010 quarter may have scratches, worn plating, stains, and contact marks. But an uncirculated example with crisp athlete details, original luster, sharp lettering, and full edge reading can be much more attractive. Steel coins are especially vulnerable to corrosion if the plating is damaged, so original surfaces are important. Never clean a coin that looks unusual. Cleaning can damage plating, remove natural luster, and leave microscopic scratches. Store it in a protective holder, test magnetism carefully, weigh it, photograph both sides, and compare it with another normal 2007 Vancouver 2010 quarter. And with that, we reach the end of the video. Before you dismiss a Canadian Olympic quarter as simple pocket change, inspect the date, the sport design, the magnetism, and the edge, because a coin created to celebrate Vancouver 2010 may carry an error that makes it far more memorable than the games themselves.